Welcome to the Future is Borderless podcast with David Nilsson. We feature top entrepreneurs and thought leaders from around the world, those who bring a global mindset and a unique perspective to their life and business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey, David Nilsson here. I am the host of this podcast. The goal of the Future of Borderless was for me to connect with business leaders from around the world who have what I call a borderless mindset, and they're willing to share new ideas, innovations, best practices, things that we can put to work in our personal and professional life, helping us to lead in a dynamically changing environment. Now, this episode is brought to you by Doxa Talent. Doxa Talent helps businesses to source full-time, highly skilled workers from all over the world. And as a result, these companies can scale faster, increase margin, and improve culture. To learn more about leveraging offshore talent to build your business, simply go to doxatalent.com. All right, well, let's get on with the show. I'm excited for today. Our guest is Ami Kassar, who is an entrepreneur and business financing expert. He's known for his work in helping small businesses to secure funding that they need to grow and succeed. He is the founder and CEO of Multifunding, a company that specializes in helping businesses navigate the complex world of business loans and financing options. Ami's recognized for his expertise in the field and is often consulted by media outlets and organizations for his insights on small business lending and financial strategies. He's also known for his advocacy work in promoting transparency and fairness in lending. And I'll just also note that Ami is a speaker and an author who contributes to various publications and shares his knowledge on both business financing and growth strategies. Today, he serves as the president of EO Philadelphia, which is a chapter within the Entrepreneurs Organization, and he hosts his own podcast, Ami Sites, which you should check out. Ami, welcome to the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah. So I think it's probably good for us to start with just understanding a little bit about your journey. And then we'll get into talking a little bit more about who you serve, what you do, and help some of our business leaders who listen to this podcast think about, their growth strategy and how they may fund it in the future. But can you maybe just take us back and help us understand how you got to the point to start Multifunding in the first place?
And so, in my prior life, I was the chief innovation officer for a company called Advanta, where David, you and I knew each other then briefly, and we were the largest issuer of credit cards to small businesses in the United States, and one of the largest public companies out of Philadelphia. And we had 1 million customers, about 1,000 employees, and $1 billion worth of market cap. And we completely decimated in the Great Recession.
Yeah.
And it was almost unbelievable. It was probably where I thought I would retire. Life was just sort of too easy and too simple.
Yeah.
And the world changed. And we, in the months, there were some months of emotional prep for that. Kind of didn't have to be a genius to see the writing on the wall, although in my role as the chief innovation officer of the company, I was charged with coming up with ideas about what the company could evolve into next if we chose to reorganize, which we ultimately chose not to. And so I certainly had some time to be thinking about my future, either for myself or for the company. In the process of shutting that company down, I had to help let 960 people go. Hands down, the toughest professional thing that I ever did. And then it wasn't a surprise. On a Friday, I got terminated by the bankruptcy trustees. On my way home, I went to the bank and I deposited a check for my full home equity line of credit. And then I told my wife, Bethany, what I did and started Multifunding on Saturday. That's how I got started.
Wow. So you went from, being terminated on a Friday to starting Multifunding the next day.
Let's be clear. We've been thinking about it for some time, but technically I did go to Cancun for a week, but technically started thinking about it for a full planning, and the doors will open 6 weeks later.
That's amazing. And what was the thesis like with Multifunding when you first started? What is it that you were trying to accomplish? What was the need that you saw, and is it still the same today?
The core thesis is still the same today. I think that um, part of what happened at Advanta is that rates for many credit card borrowers got jacked up a lot and they couldn't handle it and they were defaulting on their credit cards. And it was partially a reaction to the financial environment. And I think I just in my head felt a lot of pain for those business owners and entrepreneurs and thought there had to be a better way to let entrepreneurs make sure they knew that they were getting into their best financing choices that were available to them at the time, although I had no idea how we were going to do that. And so that core value of wanting to make sure that when an entrepreneur takes on a loan, which is a big deal, that they ensure that that loan is the best possible thing for their long-term survival.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to help make them grow. And that's not an easy thing to do.
No, and it's interesting, the industry. I mean, obviously, I'm very familiar with business financing because of my previous work, and it's a hard industry because it's so fragmented, right? There's companies that do SBA loans, and those that do conventional financing, and those that do sort of non-standard types of lending, but very few that sort of have centralized those services. So, one question I would have for you, and would help our audience sort of relate to this, is, when somebody starts a business, it's hard to be everything to everyone. So who is your ideal customer? Like, what do they look like? What are the attributes of the type of people that you can serve the best?
Yeah. So probably like anybody, when we started, our ideal customer was anybody who would talk to us.
Okay, as is appropriate for a young company, sure.
As is appropriate. But we've gotten really good at tightening at it. Our ideal customer is in the US today, is a company run by entrepreneurs and owned by entrepreneurs. So if the private equity guys have gotten in, we're usually out.
Got it.
Okay. So really, we are helping entrepreneurs or owned by individuals with their financing programs and choices that are available to them. And we're not, and that's really for owner operated businesses. So if someone's building a portfolio of investment properties, as an example, that's not, I've learned to say in our lane, like what's in our lane, what's not in our lane,
Yeah.
or what's in our strike zone. So when we started, everything was in our strike zone. But today, we don't want customers to learn on our time. So if a deal is not in our strike zone, we don't take it.
Got it. Okay. And maybe you can illustrate, just maybe a recent success or something that you're particularly proud of where you've helped a small business get financing?
I like to tell the story of my favorite client ever, who was a high school dropout, and he's built a trucking company up to like 200 trucks.
Hmm.
And you know what his dog's name was?
Ami?
Dog.
Oh, okay. Simple. Got it.
At some point, we used an SBA loan. We improved his cash flow by $1 million. Okay. Because we restructured all his debt and improved his cash flow.
By nearly $100,000 a month.
Yeah. Now, that's been harder and harder to do the last 2 to 3 years because interest rates are up. And the government gave out economic injury disaster loans like they were candy.
Yeah.
Okay. We have been doing a lot in the last 12 or 18 months of business acquisition work, predominantly using the SBA loan. So again, that's one of the ironies of business when we have the when we have a so when I started, I would tend to stay away for years and years from any business acquisition deal. I said, two lawyers, two personalities who can screw this deal up. We're out. If it's a business acquisition deal, we're not touching it.
Yeah.
Now that's about 75% of what we did this year.
Wow. What changed? How did you make the reversal?
We had to. So if in the economic injury disaster loans, which were 30-year money at 3.75%, which the government literally handed out without any proof of economic injury, and people's balance sheets, half the people I know, just their balance sheets got loaded up with cash, or they refinanced or their debt, and we couldn't compete with it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, if we don't pivot here, we're going to be dead. And so we had to go out and dig into, and now we've come really good at it. So, but it's definitely in any financial services businesses, David, I know you have one, you have to evolve and pivot at different stages, because if you don't move or adjust with the economy, you die, and trees don't grow to the sky forever. So.
Yeah. I know it's hard to do this, but based on what you just said, and then I want to come back to idle loans for a minute. But when you look at what business was like before the pandemic, like right up until the day before, and now today, I know like there was a lot that happened in between, but how different is it now for someone who's seeking capital, pre and, now a few years removed from the official pandemic?
Seeking capital for a startup, or to acquire a business, or to open up a franchise, I don't think it's fundamentally different at all. If you're seeking capital for your business that's been around for 10 or 15, 20 years, there are COVID dominoes that have to be assessed and sorted through, and how your business is doing now, how your business did through COVID, and what, if anything, if you took pandemic money, and specifically idle money, where did it go?
Yeah.
Okay. And so there are there's some more complex elements to the equation. We are, in my opinion, still living through COVID dominoes, and we will be for a long time. And so, okay, all right, buddy, you want a loan now with that $1 million idle loan. What did you do with that money? You use it to pay your divorce settlement? Like, okay, how would you like us to explain that to the loan officer? Right. Yeah. So, and unfortunately, also, fortunately or unfortunately, depending where you were, there were a lot of businesses that were in trouble before COVID, or weren't being run really well, financially solvent, and put their hands on tons of cash.
Yeah.
Some of them use it well and were able to flip their businesses, and for some of them, it was a disaster. So I think the complications are more for the existing businesses than they are for the new businesses, if that makes any sense.
Totally. I want to go back to idle for just a second, though, because you sort of alluded to something, but you made the comment ago that the idle loans were handed out like candy. And a minute ago, you gave an example of one way that maybe someone could misuse those funds. Is there any sort of initiative to examine the use of proceeds on idle loans, or is if the government issued them, just good to go?
I mean, we're going to be hearing about this for a decade, I think. Okay. So first of all, during the Trump administration, they did about 3.7 million of these, and the average loan size was like $70,000. During the Biden administration, they did about 300,000 of these, and the average loan size was $700,000. So the loan size 10x.
Yeah.
And what happened was that the Bidenites came in and they said, oh, there's like $250 billion left in this budget. We have to show that we can get it out. And they did. And they literally handed it out like it was candy. You probably got the emails, David.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh yeah.
get it before it's too late, get it before it's too late, get it before it's too late. Okay. And people were like, oh my God, there was like FOMO. I got to do this, right? I think half of EO took it. Okay.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't in the SBA business, I would have taken it too.
Yeah.
But the domino effects of those now are two things. The default rates running on the idle portfolio now are like somewhere in the range of 30 to 40%. And so in DC, people are starting to punch each other in the face about that. How did this happen and who's managing it and why did it happen and where are the defaults coming from? And naturally, the Republicans are blaming the Democrats and the Democrats are blaming the Republicans, whatever it did. And they're, I'm getting asked once a week to be an expert witness on it. And the defense attorneys don't want to hear what I have to say, so they never take me. But to be an expert witness on a defense trial for idle.
Wow.
And so it is, we're going to be hearing it for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's a massive problem for the SBA. They do not have the infrastructure in place to manage all this. And it's their own stupidity. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I do recall, as a business leader, when those things were being given out, it was really hard when you see 30-year loans at under 4% in a business environment. Like, you want to take that, but honestly, we probably could have, but in our case, we thought we really weren't economically injured in a way that justified us taking those dollars, and so we left it on the side. But yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to see what happens as this unfolds as we go forward.
I mean, there's a sadly the program sort of got bastardized. So idle should be there, and what idle is there for is like the fires in Maui a couple months
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
That's great that the government has a program there to literally like give businesses long-term low-cost capital to rebuild. But in the last 3 months of COVID, when half of businesses did better or great during COVID, and they were just like, come take this money, guys, before it runs out, tick tock, yeah. And creating all this FOMO. I mean, I've heard of people who bought 2 million of crypto with their idle loan, paid off their divorce settlement with their idle loan, bought jets with their idle loan, and they all belong in jail. Sorry.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I recall, the one thing I appreciate about the U.S. government is that they tried really hard to act swiftly, and they deployed a lot of capital to businesses during a time where there was a lot of need. The challenge, though, is that anytime you're, between the PPP, the ERC, and idle loans, and all the stimulus that was available, it's, no question, abuse will be rampant. You said something a second ago that you've been asked to be an expert witness, and I want to talk about thought leadership for a second, because one of my memories of you during the pandemic is that I was always looking out for the communication from you. I've been connected to you for a long time. As at one point we've collaborated, and other times we've been friendly competitors in some case. But actually, your niche is now very different than the stuff that we work on at my previous company. But you really emerged as a thought leader during the pandemic, helping to educate people on what the PPP was, what's an idle loan, how to think about, that whole process as it was unfolding. And it was really dynamic in real time. But I remember you just sort of emerged as a real trusted thought leader during that period of time. And my question is, was that intentional or accidental? Yes.
I mean, was COVID intentional? No. I think it was more, David, like pre-COVID, we're now 16 people. We were 6 people. Okay. And had a pretty small business. and COVID hit and PPP hit, and and our phone started ringing off the hook because suddenly everyone and their dog and their mother and their neighbor and their aunt who I'd talked to over the last few years wanted our expertise on PPP. And I pretty quickly figured out that there was a war going on against COVID, that I couldn't be in the hospitals helping because that wouldn't go well.
Yeah.
But I do have a pretty uncanny ability to be able to take complicated financial stuff and just speak about it in English to people. And we decided as a team within 24 or 48 hours we weren't going to try and monetize it. We were just there, our values, we were just there to try help the entrepreneurial community.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how it happened. Um, I think maybe an email from Vern Harnish started it. But the first day we're up all night and we had one of these sessions, and just fortuitously we had started playing around with COVID, with Zoom like a couple weeks before all this started. So we upped our license to 1,000.
Mm.
And we called a Zoom, and we bust through that in like 30 seconds. Okay. Like, shit, now what do I do? Okay. and, and so it's expensive too. And so for the next day, the next one, we upped the license to 3,000, and we bust through that. And and perhaps the biggest lesson I learned in all that is, I called my buddy at the time, Eric Schoenberg, who was a former editor-in-chief of Inc. I'm like, Eric, is it okay when I don't know the answer just to say I don't know?
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to say when you've got 3,000 people on the call. He's like, Ami, that's the only thing you can't say.
Yeah.
And that settled me down. And we just went about doing our thing. Now, it landed up having a great lift for our company, brand recognition and reputation and stuff like that. And we did land up monetizing some of the work because we did broker out the Main Street lending program loans and figured those out. But we did not try to monetize PPP at all. And I think that was totally the right thing to do.
I was going to say, it's funny. I was thinking that it really felt like a public service. I remember on one of the calls, because I was one of those people that was watching you and showing up on the webinars and trying to learn in between. It was a really helpful service, but that's what it felt like. I remember one you showed up on and you said, guys, they released it last night. I've been up all night reading this. I'm going to do my best to summarize. And you were like so authentic about it. And I loved the fact that you were just like, look, I'm going to do my best here. Just bear with me. And it was so raw and uncensored. I loved it. It was great. So,
I mean, that's really what it was all about. And it was, I think at the end of the day, we had like 40, I don't know if unique people, but we had like 40,000 people in those things.
yeah.
And it was all good. It was like the right thing to do. It was who we are. It was our values. I was honored to be able to do it. And I wouldn't have really done it any other way.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it felt that way from the other end, and I appreciated the service you provided to so many people. Speaking of that, like, look, as a business owner, entrepreneur, we all struggle with this sort of imposter syndrome. I'm curious when on your journey did you start to identify as a successful entrepreneur?
Different things make me tick than like entrepreneurs. So one of the first few years when we were struggling like hell and bouncing paychecks and just like going through torture, and I would go through these all of these calls, and um, sometimes I would walk into some of the offices like On Deck or Funding Circle or Lending Club or some of these big lenders, and I'd say, "What the hell's my problem?" Like here they have 500 employees in these beautiful offices downtown New York or downtown San Francisco or this and that other, and I'm like five or six people, and I'm just. But when I got comfortable in my own skin, that I was choosing my own path and I was going to do it my way, and success was based on how we were helping people, and success was based on our reputation, and I was all good with it. So I joked about this a couple months ago. I don't know if you read it, but I mean it. Is I joked that instead of having the Inc. 5,000 award, we should have the Sleep 5,000 award. Okay. It's
All
funny,
right.
but it's not. Okay.
But tell me more. Tell me more.
The idea would be, say you hit a certain revenue threshold, you agree to put on a sleep monitor, and whatever entrepreneur sleeps the most, gets the most sleep, they win the prize.
A sleep to profit ratio or something like that.
It's not even profit. Like it's like you're sleeping. Like half of our defaults, we looked at it. Half of our defaults over the years came from people we met at the Inc. 5000 conference.
Yeah.
So what the definition is of success is, I think, should be open to discussion and interpretation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think
Like I did this. There's this new thing going around, the Titan. I don't know if you have them in Seattle, like the Titan 100 awards.
I'm not familiar with it. No.
These guys, and they come into cities and they do these Titan 100 awards. It's like it's a they're trying to do something like the Inc. 5000, 100 Titans of industry in each city, and this and that, and they sell sponsorships and this and that. So, um, and I don't know why I agreed to do it, but I agreed to do it the 1 year, and the they interviewed me for the video for the thing, and they're like, "Who is your business hero?" And I'm like, the owner of the Exxon Mobil at down the street from my house. And they were like looking for like a Mark Zuckerberg answer or something.
Yeah, of course.
And they're like, "Why is that?" I'm like, "Because I drive my car up to him, I hand over my keys, and he'll call me when it's done, and I'll pay the bill, and I know he didn't screw me. I never have to worry about it."
Yeah.
Like it's just like core values like that that I think we should be celebrating, other than these, like when people celebrate all these awards they get,
Yeah.
like like I guess it's marketing or whatever, but like what the hell?
Yeah. I think it's funny. I, on one hand, I recognize, hey, look, some of these awards are really cool and people should be proud. I think there are others that it's more vanity related than it is functional, right? And I think that's what you're really alluding to. And then I would underscore, we tend to glorify entrepreneurship through the eyes of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. So, when you come and say, oh, it's the Exxon um, owner down the street, it's a little bit different because we're really looking for that just extreme case that gets everybody excited, but really isn't the average day entrepreneur. Yeah.
What I'm trying to say, why do we celebrate the Inc. 5000? Sorry,
Hmm.
we're celebrating fastest growth, top line growth. That's what we celebrate.
Yeah.
That's what we all get together and like high five each other for, and drink to, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean?
Yeah. Which is actually a really great, like this is a whole other topic for maybe another day, but the motivation between for entrepreneurs is so dramatically different. So that is another thing to think about, because I think, there's those that want to build to sell, build to hold, build to pass on to family. There's all those things do matter, but I do want to talk about not just the good stuff, but the bad stuff. I'm a big fan of talking about both the agony and the ecstasy, and in this particular case, I want to just focus on the tough stuff. So, maybe you could share a particularly tough time in your journey, and sort of how it impacted you and what you did to sort of resolve whatever that situation was.
That just talking about different types of entrepreneurs and stuff. Now I know you're onto your building your next big company. I never want to start another company.
One and done.
Some people are serial entrepreneurs and they love the start game. They love that process of the build and of this, that, the other. Like those first few years of fighting through cash flow and fighting through those struggles and not knowing if you're going to make it next week or the week after or this or whatever, and being too proud to ask for help and stuff like that. Maybe it's growing pain, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, but it's torture. And sadly, one of the things that makes it worse is that the types of financing that are often available in those scenarios make it worse, not better.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my beefs of why I spend a lot of time advocating against what I call just sort of, predatory lenders to small businesses. So I remember a story, it was like year 3 or something, I can't remember, or 4. And it was Wednesday, and I had no idea how I was going to pay rent on Friday. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I was online to apply for one of those stupid online loans that I tell people never to get.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Because I was in an emotional space. And just fortuitously, a mentor of mine called me, built a big company. He's like, "Hey, Ami, how you doing?" Well, I didn't tell him what I was about to do because he would have killed me or wired me money, which I didn't want. But I'm like, I don't know, Arnie, I have no idea how to make rent on Friday. He started laughing at me.
Laughing.
And it's really not that funny. He's like, Ami, didn't they teach you anything in business school? And I go, no. He's like, send the check and forget to sign it. That's freaking genius. He says, and when your check comes back next week, and if you still don't have if you have the money, give it to them. And if you don't, send the check and forget to stamp it. Guy, I did it. I sent the check. I forget to sign it. They came the next week. I said, I'm so sorry. I had the money in the account. I gave them the rent. It was all good. That random phone call saved me going into an 80% APR loan.
Wow.
That would have probably created all kinds of domino effects and further stress for me. And that's one of the reasons I'm so, among others, but I'm so into mentorship as part of, I think, our responsibility to mentor other entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I missed that course, by the way, but but I'm glad it all worked out, and I certainly am glad you didn't take on that loan. We're getting close to the end of our time, but I want to talk about um, getting lending support. So, in full disclosure to everyone here, although we don't have a commercial relationship, I've referred a lot of business to Ami in the past because he is best in class in working with existing businesses, whether acquisition, recapitalization, you name it. If somebody is sitting there as an entrepreneur thinking, I've got this great idea and I want to fund that as a growth strategy, or I need to recapitalize the business, or even I've got this business I want to acquire. Walk me through like the 3 or 4 things that they need to do or need to have sort of in order to be really seriously considered by you or any other sort of funding source.
It's interesting, David, because what we want to do is just talk to them and have a conversation first. Like, don't fill out a form, just talk to us so we can hear and we can ask you some like questions and challenging questions and stuff like that. But in the root of the day, one of the fundamental issues is that entrepreneurs don't. It was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I got at least one of these two people, but I won't say their names.
Thank you.
And um, he was going through a high growth period, and he was going to need some cash. But you asked him what his hole was, 500,000, a million, $3 million, or whatever it was. He had no idea. Okay. And then 5 minutes later, I hung up on another, actually, a member called in the logistics business who's going through now their COVID downturn. Okay. And has to move a location next year, and they're going to need cash through a downturn.
Yeah.
Okay. And how much cash does he think he needs? No idea. So one of the weaknesses, which somebody in our community, it's another kind of fight I got into, but I said, if you don't have good accounting and bookkeeping in place, I don't know how you can spend money or invest in implementing EOS or scaling up or any of these things if you don't have your basic bookkeeping and accounting and numbers in place.
Yeah.
I got me my hot seat at EO Deal Exchange a couple of months ago, and I think we were in Miami, and the guy was spending like 12 grand a month in EOS, but he's 4 months behind on his billing, and his cash flow was all screwed up. And so part of where we get in trouble, where it gets difficult for us to do our work, is if there isn't clean and good financials to work with. If we can't make sense of a P&L or this or that or the other, or the P&L and the balance sheet don't match each other, it's going to be hard to get you a loan.
Yeah.
So what I say to everyone is, if we went to a basketball game tonight and the players were cruising around the court with their shoelaces untied, um, you'd all be freaking out.
Yeah.
That's how I feel when we meet entrepreneurs or business owners who don't have a clear handle on their finances.
Yeah. I love two things I wanted to underscore. First is just the invitation to just have a conversation. I think that's really important because there's so much red tape in getting, inside of a bank. And so just having somebody that's willing to hear the story, understand the opportunity, and then guide them in that process, really important. But, for some people that are listening, they might say, well, of course, have your finances in order. But the reality is, and why things like the Inc. 500 list exist is because we often celebrate things that don't drive as much value as others. And having clean financials, while it seems like a no-brainer, I've certainly seen it, as have you, that a lot of businesses underinvest in those areas, which are really important when it comes to things like getting loans. So, all right. Hey, Ami, I always like to end with one last question, which is, I've always found that entrepreneurs, business leaders tend to be lifelong learners. And I'm just curious, here we are in 2023, moving into 2024. What's something that you're interested or you're trying to learn about or improve about yourself or want to stretch yourself in the coming year?
I'm going through it right now. I hired you could probably tell me this was silly, but I thought she had to be right under my nose, a chief of staff 2 weeks ago. and I'm not allowed in my email box anymore.
Ah.
It is saving me some hours a day.
Yeah.
I also feel like I'm in the middle of like a combination of detox and rehab, because usually getting between 600 and 800 emails a day.
Detox and rehab. It took a minute. I had to let it sort of sink in there for a second, but you're having a little bit of withdrawal syndrome.
Because you feel that thing. If I get on a plane and there's no Wi-Fi, I start shaking
Yeah.
because that's my time to clear my email box. If I get up a stage for a couple of hours and there's 100 emails waiting for me, if I don't get, I don't feel like I can go to sleep at night without my email box clear.
Yeah.
And that, and if I can do that, this is my second go at this rodeo. Okay. If I could actually let go of this, and there's this temptation to go in there and look.
Yep.
If there's a question, she texts me. And I'm hoping that this will open me up to do, not to feel like I'm constantly about to run it.
Yep. I love it. I love it. Well, you know what? I'll just share. I mean, obviously I'm in the business of helping people find executive assistants is at least one of the things that we do. But it was a life changer for me when I finally elevated the role from an administrative position to one that was actually helping to manage and guide me in certain aspects of my day. And to your point, boy, when you get 20 emails versus 200, you have a lot more time to think, to create, to serve. So that's a great share. I appreciate that.
It's less clutter.
What's that?
It's just less clutter in your brain, right?
100%. Yeah.
Well, I'm still going through the detox and the rehab, so I'll let you know in about a month.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave it there. We've been talking to Ami Kassar, the CEO of Multifunding. Ami, if people want to learn more about the work that you do, where can they go?
I have a daily blog they can check out at AmiSites.
AmiSites.com. Awesome. We'll get those into the show notes. And thanks again for being here today.
Thank you for listening to the Future is Borderless podcast with David Nilsson. Be sure to click subscribe to future episodes so you can hear from more top entrepreneurs and thought leaders. And we'll see you again next time.